Well, first of all, you got to fire any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke. It's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. That's the only litmus test we care about.
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
Trump just appointed Peter Hegseth of Fox News to be the new Secretary of Defense. What? Well, it's actually a wise choice, it seems like so far, based on things he said in the past, based on his history. We're going to go through that. We're also going to see how CNN reacts to it, and where Mr. Scott Jennings on CNN sets the record straight and explains to them why this could actually be a good pick, even though it is out of left field. It's SeanDaniel here. If you guys enjoy the video, consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much. And it's not just me. My little bear buddy thanks you as well. Now let's get into the video. Before we do though, we can be very, 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 very happy that Trump is not allowing traitor Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo to be in his cabinet. Trump tweeted or put on his Truth Social, "I will not be inviting former Ambassador Nikki Haley or former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to join the Trump administration, which is currently in formation. I very much enjoyed and appreciated working with them previously and would like to thank them for their service to our country. Make America great again." Thank God traitor Nikki Haley hasn't been able to position herself to get a job. But Mr. Peter Hegseth has. Why is that? Well, because he's an Army veteran. He went to Iraq, Afghanistan. He's a Princeton graduate. And he said stuff like this.
I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. We've all served with women, and they're great. It just, our institutions don't have to incentivize that in places where traditionally, not traditionally, over human history, men in those positions are more capable.
And he said this about the Department of Defense's Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. The department in charge of defending our United States, prioritizing inclusion, equality of different races, genders. He said this.
There's a chance to course correct it, but it would take the new Trump administration going after it really hard.
How would they correct it?
Well, first of all, you got to fire you got to fire the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and you got to fire this. I mean, obviously, you're going to bring in a new Secretary of Defense, but any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke shit, it's got to go. Either you're in for war fighting, and that's it. That's the only litmus test we care about. You got to get DEI and CRT out of military academies, so you're not training young officers to be baptized in this type of thinking. And then, whatever the standards, whatever the combat standards were, say, in, 1995, let's just make those the standards. And as far as recruiting, to hire the guy that, did Top Gun Maverick and create some real ads that motivate people to want to serve. And there's lots of other ways in which you could identify who gets promoted and what, but there's an ethos change. I mean, there's a reason people don't want to serve, because they don't trust that their senior leaders are going to have their best interest in mind in combat. I know there were mistakes made on our tours all over the place. But I, at least for the most part, had a sense that my senior leaders were committed to the completion of the mission for the right reasons. And maybe there were strategic differences and all that other stuff, and it wasn't always perfect, but that trust is broken, and you have to reestablish that trust by putting in no-nonsense warfighters in those positions who aren't going to cater to the socially correct garbage.
Now, some people might be like, "Oh, no, Pete, you can still keep those people. They have such great experiences. They know so many things." But if they were willing to cave and fall in line because of the pressure that the government and different people up above were putting on them, in order to sacrifice the safety, protection, ability, strength of our Defense Department, in order to fall in line, in order to get benefits, in order to not lose their jobs, if they were willing to make that sacrifice, they should go. Because that's directly against, I imagine, the oath they take in order to be in these military positions. That's not protecting the country. And while you and I may see the logic in that, the liberal media, of course, does not. But thank God we have Scott Jennings on CNN setting people straight.
Does anyone have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years? I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance
because he's got two insiders.
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick, and I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, I think he ought
that
to be
listen you just gave
is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying.
How did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians were responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out. And it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. I mean, we got 53 U.S. senators that are Republicans. And Pete Hegseth, he's an American hero. The man won 2 Bronze Stars for his service, and he's been a champion for veterans. He's going to have to go up there just like everybody else and prove his knowledge of how to do this job. He's not immune from that, but we ought to give this man a chance, in my opinion.
Scott makes some great points, and it also highlights what you need to be prepared for as an American citizen who's interested in politics for the twisted logic you're going to continually hear presented by the media in order to try to find holes in principles that Trump is taking a stand on, like bringing in an outsider who's willing to make some change, bringing in an outsider who's standing up for the right principles of prioritizing defensibility of the Department of Defense over equity and inclusion. So just be prepared for all of the different liberal BS pokes you're going to hear in the logic of Trump's decisions. Not every decision is going to be the best, but we also see the logic of a lot of his decisions. Remember, the government literally has not only an Office of Diversity and Equity Inclusion in the Department of Defense, okay, but they even had an inaugural in 2023 Department of Defense, ready, look at this, Diversity and Equity Summit, as DEIA experts led forums to advance the diversity, equity, inclusion agenda and DoD mission because our people matter. I have a question. So first of all, that's the reality of the Department of Defense right now. People within the system were willing to promote something like this. Maybe that's why Trump's bringing in someone from outside the system. Not only because of that, but also because of what I showed you before of what Pete Hegseth has said about his ideas and what's going on in the Department of Defense. But the other thing is this. Do you think when we go to war and we're trying to defend our country that Russian soldiers are going to give 2 shits about how equal opportunity we have in our government? Do you think the Taliban, when we're fighting against them and they're trying to take away things possibly against our country, we don't know, do you think they're going to give 2 shits about, oh, well, do you guys have enough transgenders in your military? Do you guys have enough black people? Are there women on the front line? They do not give a shit. And like Pete Hegseth said, it has been proven, and it's just logic, that most of the time, men are better at combat than women. They will do a better job at defending our country, carrying out missions than women. So therefore, they should be in more positions of combat than women, and women shouldn't really be in those positions. If we care about defending our country, which is what the name of Department of Defense is. Hence why I'm excited about this decision that Trump has put in place. When I first saw it, I was like, what? A guy from Fox News, which is how the media is going to label it to you. But if you watch videos like this, you watch other channels, you can see some of the logic as to why Trump is making these decisions, and then you can have greater belief in why you voted for him and the direction of the country. Because you don't want to have the doubt, you don't want to start believing a bunch of BS from these liberal media companies and being like, oh my God, that doesn't make any sense. No, you want to see the truth, be able to understand it, and then if it's wise, have great confidence in it. And I do in this decision, hope you do as well. It's Sean Daniel here, and I will see you guys in the next video. If you enjoy the videos, consider subscribing or watching another video right here, and I'll see you in the next one. No equity and inclusion here, baby. Boom! Ain't that right?